Joanie Laurer, aka Chyna, was once one of the biggest names in the world of wrestling, and when her death was announced in 2016, many fans around the world were saddened. Chyna was someone who lived her life facing one hardship after another, yet somehow managed to come out on top until her untimely passing. The only question here is, why were things so hard for Chyna before and after she became a professional wrestler? Before she was known in the wrestling world as the ninth wonder of the world, Joanie Marie Laurer had an upbringing that was anything but simple. She was born in Rochester, New York on December the 27th, 1969, and by the time she turned 4, her parents had divorced. After their divorce, both parents would end up remarrying, with her mother remarrying multiple times. Joan would end up having one stepmother, but 3 stepfathers, and according to Joan, her first stepfather was suicidal and threatened to end his own life before her mother ultimately divorced him. Her biological father wasn't a positive role model for her either, though, and he apparently was an alcoholic. There was even a reported instance where Laura's father accidentally stabbed her mom in the thigh while he was intoxicated. Growing up, Joan admitted to suffering from body dysmorphia and always found herself wondering why she seemed so different from all the other girls her age. This ended up leading her toward a lifetime that, despite being filled with moderate success, was also filled with depression. Laurer has also spoken about an instance where she was assaulted by one of her teachers when he kissed her while she was only in the 7th grade. This only added to the nightmares that continued to haunt Joan throughout her childhood, and at the age of 13, Joan claimed that she began purging after any time she ate. At the age of 16, Laura's mother allegedly tried to force her into a rehabilitation facility, which was when she decided to leave her home for good and began taking care of herself. It was also around this time that Joan began working out, but sadly she worked out her core muscles so much that she couldn't feel pain from an ovarian tumor that developed, which caused a problem later down the line. Over time, Joan showed an interest in law enforcement, though that never panned out for her, and eventually, after gaining a lot of confidence in herself through her bodybuilding, Joanie Laurer decided to check out the world of professional wrestling. After meeting 2 members of the World Wrestling Federation, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, Joan ended up showing them her wrestling tapes, and they were impressed enough to invite her to perform with them. At first, Joan appeared in the WWF as just a bodyguard, but quickly worked her way into the spotlight and began making a brand for herself as Chyna. She was seen as a trailblazer for women in the WWF because most female wrestlers at the time were made to wear very skimpy clothes and not taken seriously, but Chyna pushed the boundaries and made sure the world knew that women could wrestle just as well as men. Her career with the WWF boomed from 1996 till she decided to leave the company in 2001 when the federation wouldn't agree to her contract. Following her exit from wrestling, Chyna would go on to appear in various TV shows and music videos, and despite becoming a fan favorite on reality shows like Surreal Life, her acting career never really took off. However, she knew of another outlet that she was already a semi-star in, and over the course of 10 years, the former professional wrestler would end up starring in 6 adult films, 2 of which were Triple X parodies of Marvel movies, where Joan appeared as She-Hulk. Laurer also modeled for Playboy in the November 2000 issue, and again in 2002, after she had left the WWF. And though she gained a massive following during her adult film and magazine appearances, it was clear by the way she was acting in interviews that she was unhappy with where she was at in life, especially with the way things ended between her and the WWF, who had since treated her as if Chyna never existed. According to Joan, she made more money from that single November 2000 issue of Playboy than she did in her entire career as a professional wrestler. And that just shows you how minimally the WWF and the world of wrestling in general treated their female wrestlers, who were bringing in whole audiences of viewers. Over the years, Joan also spoke about the fact that despite being an icon to some, she still dealt with body dysmorphia, and it was likely something that was going to haunt her for the rest of her life. It also ended up leading Laurer down a hole when it came to abusing her medical prescriptions, as well as other substances. In fact, her substance abuse problems got so bad that she even appeared on the reality series Celebrity Rehab, where she spoke about some of the hardships that she was going through at the time. Following a life that should be remembered for her amazing wrestling accolades, it was sadly announced on April 20th, 2016, that Joanie Marie Laurer was found deceased in her apartment. According to the reports, Chyna's body was found after her manager, Anthony Anzaldo, had been unable to get hold of her, and she hadn't posted her usual updates to her social media accounts. Anthony decided to check up on Laurer, and once he showed up at her apartment was when he found her, and Zaldo called the police, who initially reported that she likely died from an accidental overdose. It wasn't until December 2016 that Joan's autopsy report was officially released, which determined that the former professional wrestler had sadly died on April 17th, 3 whole days before she was discovered. Joan reportedly died from an accidental overdose fueled by a mixture of alcohol and prescription medication. Anthony, as well as others close to Joan, have expressed that her death was indeed an accident rather than a suicide, which was what some of her fans were suspicious of based on her tragic history. According to her manager, Laurer tended to take her prescription in an improper fashion and would often use more than the recommended amount, which tracks with the wrestler's former history of substance abuse. A memorial service was held for Chyna, and sadly, not many of her former wrestling co-stars showed up to pay their respects. This only solidifies the fact that while she did so much to help the industry move forward in a positive direction, especially when it came to the treatment of the WWF's female wrestlers, the world of wrestling only continued to fail her. That being said, many of her fans and loved ones were in attendance at her service, and many who showed up said that it was a beautiful way to honor the memory of a woman who represented so much to so many people, whether she realized it or not. Joan Laurer, aka Chyna, was 46 years old at the time of her death, and all we can say is, hopefully, she's resting peacefully. How do you feel about the way the world of wrestling handled Chyna, and the fact that many of her co-stars didn't visit her memorial? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss a single upload.